resume recording there. Okay, so recording's back on. This icon right here is not accessible. A little, and then I also have acceptable in here. And you know, obviously, again, we can come up with whatever icons you want. If some of you might have noticed on the Facebook group, I asked for ideas of what everyone wanted as icons. And the most common ideas were a bulldozer and a little picture of a crap. So, you know, while definitely hilarious and, you know, for us, I think would be very appropriate at times, probably not something we'd actually stick in the report. There was one other good idea, and that was from a guy in Hawaii. He wanted an icon that said volcano warning, and it was a little man running from the top of a mountain down to the ocean, and then a hurricane warning where a little man was running from the ocean back up to the top of the mountain. You know, I guess you live in Hawaii, that's a common problem. So the icons, obviously, you know, you guys can sit there as a franchise or as a group and think about, do we want to use these? You know, visually, do we think that this is something that will draw the client's eye a lot more? Now, you guys notice what's on one of the photos there as well, though, on the screen?
Yeah, I see that. The exclamation mark.
Yeah, so we added the option to have icons on the side, but we also added another option to add icons directly over an image. And the icons are very easy to select, and once you select them, you can set a location that they'll automatically go to on all reports. In fact, there's a little cone icon here as well. The idea with this is you're able to specifically create icons, say, for water damage or electrical problems, or icons for, you know, a plumber's needed, a contractor's needed, a gardener's needed, you know, whatever else you want to do. And of course, a little bulldozer icon too. You know, this is something as well. You guys, we've preloaded some, but again, whatever you guys want to come up with, you can use whatever you want. And then at the top of the page, you'll notice that we actually have icons for the section headers now too. And we've preloaded a few different sets of those. So like I have a little HVAC icon here. I have a little plumbing icon there. Electrical. Obviously, you know.
Are you able to move those little icons by the title?
Say that again?
So the electrical, are you able to remove that little picture next to the word electrical?
Yes. So that's something you choose to add. You can also left align that. You can right align it or center align it. And you can change the icons to be whatever you want. It's just something to try to help the report really be a little more colorful and pop out, but definitely not required. And now that I've shown you guys those three things, I'll show you how to set them within the report. So you have an idea of what the heck I'm talking about when we're doing this.
Do the icons, do they come like, would there be a legend with them, or would it be like a glossary? Like, just because if they weren't perfectly clear, it could cause some confusion. So, like,
of course. So you would definitely want to create a legend within your understanding the report page. So, like in this example right here, we discuss what blue text means, what red text means, what green text means, what yellow highlights mean for the glossary. But you would also add in your icons right here and give information there. I saw one company already that's testing this that created a legend at the bottom of every page using the stationary feature. And that looked pretty sharp as well, because then the legend there is on every single page. So yeah, that's obviously up to you, but that's fully within the capabilities of the document editor, or creating it in another program and inserting as a PDF so you can have something even fancier within the report.
What about the hover thing, like with the glossary with the terms? Is that a possibility?
It definitely would be a possibility to make the icon a hover and get a definition. Like I can see hovering over this and it's saying acceptable. That's a good idea. It's a very good idea. It would be a little harder on the icons that are over the images themselves, but that's something I can definitely look at. In fact, let me write down the pop-up.
You send the royalty to Kevin Travis.
One person at a time. Try that again.
I said you can send the royalty to Kevin Travis.
Well, luckily we get tons of good feedback from our users, so that's definitely a good idea. Okay, so jumping back to the desktop so we can look at where these things are set. Let me make sure, hold on a second. Trying to keep my my mobile open at the same time so I can show stuff off to you here in a second. Okay, so the section headers are under report settings and section colors by print order. So you'll notice there's a new column here called section item. And simply all you need to do is click on the folder and it'll open up a new folder that we created called Icon Library within the Home Inspector Pro folder. And that has, for example, 2 sets that we pre-seeded that you can select from. And within these connections, if you needed more icons, you can add your own or ask us for more too. Oops. You guys able to see that okay? Yep, you guys still there?
Yeah, you want to just give me 1 sec? Can I take the, on my computer, I just can minimize for 1 sec. I think there's something beeping in the background there.
Sure. I wasn't sure if that was my side or yours. I heard that too.
Yeah, I'm feeling it might be mine. There's something there. But how do I minimize this without closing?
I have a question while he's doing that. Can you click these icons from the mobile? Or do they auto-generate?
So what happens is on the mobile side, and well, these are the section headers. So those are only done on the desktop. But the rating icons can be done on desktop or mobile. And it looks identical to the rating. So literally you're still just checking a box that with via text represents whatever you want it to be. But then the text gets converted over to a graphic once you come back to the desktop.
Okay, so you can get them from the mobile. Does the mobile have to be updated to the latest version?
It will be the version that's not public yet. So our beta testers have been using this for about a month right now. But
I'm
yes,
on that. So it's the new test flight one that I just downloaded then, right?
you'd be fine. We've actually had the mobile actually doesn't recognize anything's different. What happened is the mobile is just recording whatever the rating name is, and then back on the desktop, it's converting that rating into an icon. So as long as you have 5, 6 on the desktop, it'll work just fine.
Okay.
Just make sure you've updated. We tried using the icons on mobile, but to make the icons visible enough to figure out what each icon was, we had to make them too large. And so it made more sense just to keep it with the text of what the icon represented. It kept the pages loading faster, and then it was easier to fit that in a smaller space. So, so looking back to the section headers, obviously I can click on any of these icons and change them as well. Over here, section alignment. So this would change the title and the icon to be left aligned, right aligned, or center like it was in that last example. And we've also redesigned this screen some just to make it a little easier when you're looking at the section font and some other stuff. There's a million small things in this update just for speed or just reorganize things or make it easier to read. But I'm kind of going over the major things. The ratings are under report settings and ratings. And this is the icons to the left of each section or each item. And very simple, you have whatever the text version of the rating name is, acceptable, monitor, safety issue. And then you have the icon version. And if I click on any of the icons, it gives me the ability to go in and select from the defaults I've added in there or anywhere else on your computer that you've added a new icon. We've kind of,
So we could add our,
yes. So that way you can add your bulldozer and your little poop icon right there. You'll notice that, we did give details in the introduction. The icons need to be a maximum of 64 pixels high or wide. If you need help with any of that, let us know. The website flaticon.com, FLAT, is where we've licensed over 1 million icons. So if you don't like these, which, these are just demo icons, jump on that website and start looking for things that you do like, and then shoot me the list of the ones you like, and then I can grab them because we've already paid for the license, and then send you a licensed version of them. So you'll notice right here, I had to check to include ratings, and I had to check to use the icons instead of ratings. So that's important. Check those boxes. And then under options, we added a few new options. So print bigger icons. So it's 64 by 64 pixels, but if you made the decision that you're only gonna have one icon max, and realistically one icon max will look a little better, just because if you're using 2 or 3 in some places, everything's gonna be indented over to make sure there's enough space for 2 or 3. So you'll have, you know, some blank space in there on these items that you don't use multiple icons. But you have that option to make the icon larger. I kind of like 1.25. Whether you want icons in the summary or not, so you can turn that on or off. And then do you want to indent the item description to show the icons on the left? And what that does is, instead of the icon being to the left of the narratives, it shows to the left of the section title. To make that look good, you have to make the section title font larger so it's closer to the size of the icon, which you can do too. Just, you know, trying to give guys some flexibility there with that new option. And then the icons over the images. Oh, sorry, someone have a question on that? Last part? Nope. So the icons over the images, we add the icons we want under photos and add icons. And then I can click add icons and I can select, you know, whatever icons are on my computer anywhere, you know, that I want. And then, but whatever icons I add in here get added into my library that's template wide. And then I can right click on this to pre-select like quick icons that I'm going to use often. But maybe I have 20 icons because I want an icon for each trade that needs to fix something, for example. If there's more than just the quick ones, you click on the magnifying glass and then I can select any of the other icons that I have. To add an icon in each picture, I'm literally just going to click whichever icon I want, and it shows right here, and that's the icon that'll automatically be placed on the image when you generate the report. Through report settings and options, and of course, I'm giving you guys an overview. We're already working on tutorials on everything, so don't feel like you need to memorize everything I'm showing you right now. It's mostly just to understand, you know, the new features. Otherwise, I'm sure some people are freaking out. I've given you guys the ability to set the gap, like basically how far is that icon from the edge of the picture. If I have, oh, let me go back up. There we go. So the gap is how much space is to the left and above this image. So you can drive it wherever you want. And then notice I also set this to be in the top left quadrant. I can set it to be in any of the 9 locations here I'd want. And then from then on, when I select an image, it's automatically go in that location. And that makes sure that every picture you select is consistent across the entire report. So you're not like dragging it and trying to place it, which would be a huge pain in the butt. So that, and with the icons as well, under application settings, I can also change the number of quick icons that I want to show on the side. This is kind of based on screen size. If you have a really large monitor, you could easily set that to show more icons at once. And actually have to restart HIP for that to take effect. But you know, if you have a 30-inch monitor, you might as well show 10 icons on each one to make it quicker. So any questions on the icon features here that are coming out? No, all good. That means I did a perfect job explaining it and everyone knows exactly what to do now. Excellent. Like I said, I'll come out with plenty of tutorials and stuff for this. We've already started on a few. We just wanted to make sure that we had enough feedback from all our beta testers that we weren't making some massive changes. The layout here, you'll notice, looks different as well, right? The rating or the section and items are now on the left-hand side instead of above. We actually did make one final change here on the public version, or on the version that's going to be public, and I didn't grab the latest update. This is like from last week. The caption now has been moved to the bottom, so it goes all the way across the photo, just like it would in the report. And that just allows you to see more of the caption at once. We had a few guys that type longer captions. Obviously, most keep it short and sweet, but some do type it longer. One of the reasons we redid this was obviously to make everything that we've added fit, but also for speed. So if you're still doing photos on the desktop, when I click on the section now, and then I single click on something like plumbing, my mouse is already hovering over the items. So I didn't have to move it. So before, when we were on left to right, you'd click the section, it would auto pop up the item, but you still had to move your cursor to the right. So, you know, it was an extra movement. Now, because your cursor is already over the next pop out, there's less mouse movement, just to kind of help you guys move even faster through the report. The other new feature in here is for RecallChek. Now, are any of you guys using a RecallChek right now?
Everyone is.
Everyone is. Awesome. So are you guys using the separate RecallChek app right now?
Yeah, never.
Okay, so you don't need to do that anymore. So what we did is you can take your photos now on mobile, and then when you come back to the desktop, all you have to do is say what it is, just like you would in the Recall app. You say it's an AC and, you know, it's a GE brand or whatever it is. And then Nathan, you know, who runs RecallChek, has a bunch of, you know, little children in the Philippines sitting there who
We're reading model number and serial.
hey, somebody somewhere is reading those data plates, and I'm sure they're not getting paid a lot, but maybe it's not some kids in the Philippines, but it's someone somewhere is then reading that data plate and then entering that in, so you don't have to type in the serial numbers. Yeah, so advantage is you don't have to flip between apps. You don't have to bother importing from ISN on mobile and doing all that other kind of stuff. You just do it directly here. On mobile, you can take these photos anywhere you want. So this could be a photo that's also in the report, and then you also tag it for RecallChek. And when you're done, you just go to Internet, RecallChek photo upload, and that'll shoot the photos over to Nathan. Some of the companies that have been testing this have already created a new section in the report called Appliances or RecallChek, and then they've added on mobile all the photos directly there. And remember, on the mobile, that's easy because we can double tap photos anywhere in the software and then shoot them to another section. And I'll cover that real briefly in case you guys, some of you guys probably don't know that. So some of the other things that we've actually added in the last 6 months to a year, but I noticed most of them. Yes.
If I can ask a question on RecallChek before you move on.
Definitely.
There's some setup that's needed in HIP to link the RecallChek account beyond what we've done before.
It's the same as it's the same as before. If you ever used it in HIP, you go to Internet, RecallChek login information, and you just need to put your RecallChek name and password into here. That's it. And then from then on, you're just going to Internet and then RecallChek photo upload. And see, I had tagged this as the AC photo. So it's going to show me all the pictures here that I've tagged for RecallChek. And I just click on Submit to RecallChek up here at the top, and it'll shoot those directly to them. That's it. There's no importing or anything else that's needed.
Because like right now, where the client's information will come from ISN and then into the RecallChek app, assuming we did it the night before. I guess the same thing applies because it's coming from ISN and ready for HIP anyways.
Yeah, exactly. So you've already imported your ISN data, right? So there's no need for that.
So when we take a picture of the data plate, we don't slot it, of course, we want it in the report. It's still, you don't have to have it slotted in the section or anything. When you fill in the RecallChek, the appliance type in the model or the make, just automatically does it.
Yeah. So all you need to do is select on the whatever type it is, and then the manufacturer. So the make and the serial, or the make and the serial come direct from the data plate. So you take those, the photo guys, you know, whoever Nathan has doing it will sit there and parse that data, and then directly upload that. Now, obviously, the clearer the photos you take, the better. And so, you know, that'll work perfectly for those guys. One of the other features that we did add a little while back, but I've noticed a lot of guys have missed. Do you guys know what this little greater than sign right here does?
Takes you to the section.
Yeah. So if I click on this, it takes me directly to the section that had that photo. And I'm just, you know, that's not a new feature, but I know a lot of guys have missed that. And then I can also double tap the photo to go back to the section. So if I am looking at something and I'm like, oh, you know, I forgot to, you know, comment on this, I can click this arrow. It takes me directly back here. And then I can get directly back to the photo. And if there's in reverse, I notice I didn't annotate it or something, I can jump back and forth. Did anyone not know that? No? Excellent. Okay. A few guys might not be willing to admit it. That's fine. All right. So Borderless. So under report settings and options, there's this new option right here. I had mentioned print the borderless summaries. That just removes the grid. That's something we kind of had asked for a while. We did add a few easy checkbox here to turn off the company, the client, the agent information, the custom cover, and all that kind of stuff directly on the cover page. And obviously, if you're doing that on the designer too, you know that you can do that direct from the cover page designer. I don't think we kind of redesigned a couple of these things to make it easier. Yeah, but that's all that's in there. Some guys haven't noticed before. I still see people that haven't turned on autosave. Turn on your autosave. Make sure it's set to every 10 or 20 minutes. That way HIP is autosaving. Let's see here. Cover page designer. So obviously you guys have a franchise-wide cover page design. We have made a lot of improvements in this. And so if any of you guys who are artsy wants to start working on some other possible designs and submitting that off to, to Buyer's Choice or whoever, to Rick to kind of go over new possibilities, or you just want to add some more information into it. It's very easy now to grab things and drag and drop. We have layers where you can move things up and down. And yes.
I have a question for the autosave. If you put the autosave on, does it stay randomly when you're doing the report and just stops?
You faded out there a little bit. I heard if you turn autosave on, and then I didn't hear what was said after that.
If you turn autosave on, will it just stop you from doing the report every 10 minutes? Or 15 minutes?
It does. So it pops up and stops what you're doing.
It saves, so I gotta wait.
It saves up. It saves up to wherever you're at. If you're on certain windows, it won't pop up. And like if you're editing a comment, it shouldn't pop up until you're done editing. We've been trying to work on saving in the background, but the problem is if you're in the middle of a batch ad of 300 photos and then you try to trigger a save at the same time, there's too much going on, and it could cause corrupt data, just because you're adding stuff in. It could be adding in the second after HIP just tried to back up the photos. And so we've kind of, just to make sure that there's data consistency and there's never a problem, we force HIP to say, hey, hold on a second, save everything and go back in. And I realize, with something like Word, it saves in the background and it's nice and pretty, but you'll notice on stuff like Photoshop and HIP uses up to 3 to 4 gigs of RAM depending on what you're doing to make sure that it's going fast when you're in it, because we preload as much as we can into memory to make it so it doesn't slow down at all. It's a lot of data to dump to a inspection file, and so there's a lot to go through. So yeah, the autosave does kind of pop up and say, hold on a second, we're saving, and then it'll release you back to what you were doing. So with the cover page design, I can turn off, company logo or all sorts of other things that are in here. We did add a new feature as well. If you're adding text boxes, you can now select from all the variables. They're in here to remind you. So if I wanted to put in, I'm sure there's a lot of clients still with fax numbers, super important. The inspection date and the time and the size, the weather, all that kind of stuff, you can then add directly into the cover. I could take that and then, drag it wherever I wanted to. Change the font size, whatever else I wanted.
So Dominic,
Yes.
the last time I looked at the cover page designer, I tried doing a few things with it, and I thought I got what looked like a decent cover page. As your screen is appearing here now. So I got it the way I liked it on here. And then when I saved it and put it into practice, it came out nothing like that. So I'm just wondering, this would have been probably a year or so ago. Was that a glitch or was that just me not using it right? Because
it could be a little of both. So obviously the cover page designer has been there for about a year now. When we first released it, of course, you get a million suggestions on how to improve it. But we've probably had about 20 updates to the designer since. In the very beginning, it's very hard to represent an 8.5 by 11 in a space that's a lot smaller than 8.5 by 11. So especially if you had a smaller screen or a lower resolution, it doesn't even have enough space. So there's actually a ton of math that goes into trying to recalculate out what this looks like on the resolution of my screen versus the resolution on your screen versus what actually appears on the report. And throughout the updates, we've definitely come a very, very long way to get that to be extremely close. We also added a lot more grids. I think originally you had like, 9 or 10 places that you could put all these. You'll notice for a second there, you see that those grid lines. So those are the boxes that this is all connecting to. So that helped it really fine tune more because we were able to greatly increase the spaces that you can see of it. Now, notice that picture. So that's the cover photo for this inspection. And the image that I'm moving around is a file done in Photoshop that has a hole cut in it. It's called transparent. And this is kind of like a peanut butter sandwich with, the bread on the top has a hole cut in it so you can see the meat underneath. And we changed the layer of our sandwich by grabbing each different object here and then moving it up and down. And so that allows us to get this kind of cool looking report. And I think you guys will agree, there's no other report that I've ever seen that looks something, has this kind of capabilities and looks that cool as far as the cover page.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you guys have a button right there where you can click it and say view cover page, how it will look on report sort of button?
Well, this is the live preview. Now, obviously, what you'd want to do then is just click generate report.
Yeah, but when you generate the report, I did this like a month ago, and it still is not quite the same. Like when you generate the report, my words are not right. Like I tried to make my cover page with the template we had, but I had to take like a colored section out or something because I couldn't get my words to fit. And
Plain text and things like that.
Sure.
but when you generate it, it looks totally different than when you look at it here. But like it'd be nice if there was a quick button, you just go, okay, let's look at it instead of generating the whole report, which takes like 5 minutes. Well, not 5 minutes, 2 minutes.
So the best thing to do when you're messing with this, and this is probably why you saw it, you'll notice I have real information showing here. I have an actual address. So in an actual cover photo, if you use a real report that already has the information in there, you'll get more real info. Now, this was actually typed in there. But what happens is, like, let's say I'm adding text and I want to put in the client name. And then I want to move this somewhere. Well, this client name right now, it's just a variable representing what it's going to be, is only like 12 characters. Well, if you type in your client name and it's 30 characters, it's obviously going to be much longer. So it is important to think about, okay, realistically, what's the longest client name I'm going to have? And then you'll probably come into font settings, then you'll be dropping that down quite a bit more. And that will represent the actual font size here. So you might have to do a little tweaking, and that's a good idea, just to maybe generate a cover only, just for a quick review. And I'll definitely add that on my notes here. Cover only preview. But if you do add the cover photo and stuff on there, it does give you a more accurate representation. And the rest of it is just trying to figure out what size this really will be when you're on there. And then of course, if you have any issues when you're doing it, just give us a call and we'll go over stuff with you too. And then the other thing is you can export this layout and then you can share it with other people by them importing it and then making sure they turn it on. So it allows you to have a separate cover page for other templates. Like the cover page saves in the template. It's not application wide. So if you want a different for a wet inspection you're doing or for a commercial inspection, you could definitely change that up some. let's see here. Okay, so one of the other cool features we added recently was being able to put PDFs inside the document. Have any of you guys used that feature yet?
No, but we were talking about this morning, Dominic. We're finding there's like some general disclaimers we want to put in company-wide, things like asbestos and such that we want in every single report. And we were wondering if this might be the solution. That way we can add it to the template and mass distribute it.
Yeah, it's actually a good solution. I'll show you a quick report that another franchise with HIP.
Right. So, right, like once it's in, we don't want to have to mess with it or risk accidentally moving it like Adam Anderson did.
Once it's in, it's in. As an example here, so this is a inspection company that is growing real quickly in the U.S. And so they created this in Photoshop, and you could do it in Word or something else too. But it'd be very hard to do this with the HIP document editor. The document editor is just not real super strong because we have to limit whatever's there to be things that can easily be converted from HTML over to PDF format. But you can make something like this in the PDF and then insert that so that's always the second page. So that's definitely a good solution. And when you're doing that, I'll just throw any old PDF here. When a PDF is added, it's going to drop to the bottom. It's the end of the report by default, but I can actually put this anywhere within. So if you put this after the cover page, then that would show immediately after the cover, and it'd be a good place for your introduction. Now that feature to do that on a one-off per inspection has been there for a while. The ability to save it to the template is brand new. And it's warning me that I already have this document. I've done this before with this file, so I can replace it or just say, nope, it's the same one you already have, just link to it. Now, what's important to notice is another feature we added, this ignore page margins. In the past, if you added that PDF to the end of the report, it was 100% the normal size. So if it was an 8.5 by 11 PDF, it would add to the report as an 8.5 by 11. If you added it anywhere within the report, it was shrunk to 95% of its size. And the reason we did that is we wanted to make sure that the document would fit within where the header is and where the page numbering is. So it was shrunk so it basically sat inside of the top and bottom of the report. Now, some guys, and with that though, it's kind of slightly shrinking everything else, the content within it. So what we did is we added an option that says ignore page margins. And what this basically says is, I realize that there's margins in my report. I want it to be inserted as a full 8.5 by 11. And I'll just make sure that I don't have anything in this area because HIP is going to print on top of it, whether I want it to or not. And this allows you to actually go fully to the edge with your bleed. So you can create, just like you did with the stationary, something that goes all the way to the bottom, or put, like I was talking about earlier, putting a legend at the very, very bottom of the page, even below the page number. So it gives you a little more flexibility. And then once you save that to the template, it saves. Now, that file does not go inside the template. A reference to it does. So you do want to make sure that that file has to be copied to each computer. And that's just because we don't want, if you have a, now that you've bought your home book from InterNACHI that's 150 pages long, we don't want that file going back and forth to mobile all the time. As you guys know, especially in the Atlantic region, there's areas where you have a real crap internet connection. You don't want to wait for an extra 5 meg file to download to mobile when it is irrelevant on mobile. So just make sure that file's on your machine. And if you guys are sharing the template, just put it in the same place on every machine. And we actually added in HIP now a document vault, and that's where that file goes. So once you've added it, it'll go in that document vault on everybody's computer. So that way it's consistent whether it's Mac or Windows, it's not going to matter. the template won't mind. Just put it in the same place. Any questions on that though?
Yeah, and then my follow-up to that, and you can defer to later if you want, where I have a team of 20 inspectors here in Atlantic. If I want to manage the template, so to speak, and these documents, is there a way, I mean, we all use Dropbox as a team. Is there a way that I could have that all set up, that's controlled in one spot, and
so
then it all operate?
The best way, and that's a good question. So the best way right now that guys are doing, we have companies that have 60 to 100 guys doing this, is you have each of your guys right click on they should be putting HIP in Dropbox, right? You put HIP in your Dropbox folder. So that way, if they have their own machines, multiple machines, HIP will be identical on every computer they own. But if they right click on their HIP folder and share it with you, then from your Dropbox, you'll have access to every single one of your guys. And you could literally drag and drop on your computer something into their Dropbox, and it'll replace the files on their machine in their HIP copy. That's the best way to do it right now. Now, go ahead.
No, are you saying that like if you put HIP in your Dropbox, you wouldn't need to change your license over for every computer, or just be whatever you assign in Dropbox?
No, so each inspector has to have their own Dropbox, right? You'd have to have your own Dropbox account. But then when you have your own account, like let's say you have a laptop and a desktop, you personally, HIP will be identical on both machines. So if one computer breaks, you're not freaking out, and you put Dropbox on the new machine, it'll sync everything over automatically.
I like that.
So that's a huge time saver. But then if you share that folder with Rick, then he can push anything he wants into that, and it makes it very easy for him to manage. Now, the step beyond that, some of you guys might have heard that we've been working on our own, basically, ISN. And this is not to replace ISN. It's just that because of the buyout from Porch and because HomeGauge also got bought out and a lot of other things in the industry, we've had a ton of guys that are switching to us from other software if they use ISN, but then if they wanted it all in one company, they were going with like Horizon because they had it all in one. And so we made the decision that we finally needed to make our own. So for the last year, we've had 5 guys doing that. Now, ISN is still the Porsche, and probably always will be because they have 15 guys, for the last 15 years hammering away at features. But for what 75% of guys use, our system's, going to be perfect for them. But we still have a extremely good relationship with ISN, and that's not going to change, and our integration is not going to change either. But we are adding the reason I was bringing that up, we're adding some features into, we're calling it Hip Hop for now, or Hippo, the Home Inspector Pro Office. We haven't quite decided. One or the other. We're letting guys vote.
Keep doing software, Dominic. Yeah, leave marketing alone.
So do you want to market Hippo or Hip Hop? You guys.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, both.
Both. There you go. So the thing is we are adding some features into that. Even if you're not using the system, we're having basically a owner management level where you're going to be able to push templates from inspector to inspector. And then also within Mobile Sync, we're adding a share template and share inspection. So that way, if you guys are doing a team inspection, rather than emailing one file to another guy, you could just click share, type in his username, and it'll appear in his cloud. So we have quite a few things that we're getting extremely close to the top of the list there to get completed now that we've knocked off so many different things with this update right here that we're going along the way. I went over that. Oh, one of the other really fun features, we added in a new spell check that also includes a grammar check.
Oh, buddy.
I thought you were going to say creation.
What?
Well,
Grammar.
yeah. We do have a Croatian version in there too for Zdenko. Yeah, definitely. Is Zdenko in there, by the way?
Yeah.
All right. Kako stay. Yeah, how you doing? So you'll notice I typed in the word "the" twice. It highlighted it, and if I right click on it, it says, "Hey, you have 2 consecutive articles." If I had added 2 more spaces, You notice it also highlighted there to say, hey, I had 2 extra spaces right here, so it highlighted that too. I don't know why it doesn't know intrusion, probably because it's all caps. Or I changed my language here. I'll look at that in a second. It's actually so smart, it's scary. Like I was typing in, see if it works right now. I typed in Thursday, August 15th, 2018 the other day, and it actually highlighted it and said, you idiot, the August 15th is a Wednesday, not a Thursday. Now it's telling me I have a spelling mistake. And I don't know why it's not doing it now. I'll need to, I managed to trigger that earlier. So it is trying, like notice right here, I actually have a space there between levels and comma. So it's telling me I shouldn't have that. And obviously some things like this are meant to be there, but this it's a whole new database. And then special for our Canadians, and you know, in the talk that I did on Tuesday, of course, Tim Kelly was in there from Buyer's Choice, and there was 1 or 2 other Canadians in the room. So I had to pick on them and point out that they don't know how to spell color or mold. So I actually added in here under edit a British, Australian, Canadian, New Zealand, and South African English dictionary. So that way HIP won't tell you you're spelling something wrong if you type it the Canadian way versus the US way. So that should be super useful there as well. Do you guys know what this C right here is for?
Yes.
Croatia?
Yeah, it is for Croatia. That's perfect. Yeah. So those are the caption comments. Does everyone know what the caption comments are?
You automatically spawn over that.
Yeah, they're automatic comments that show in the drop down under photos. So just making sure. Now, any of you guys using this new link image feature yet?
Yes.
No.
I know.
Everyone should. It is slick, slick, slick. Pay attention here, guys. This is insane.
Yes. So, and that's why I bring it up, because it was added less than a year ago. Actually, we added it a year ago, but there was nothing in HIP to do as far as pre-seeded images. So basically what happens if I select any comment and I click link photo, HIP is going to open up to my library, and I can select a photo, and that photo will automatically insert into the report whenever I use this comment on the desktop or mobile in the future. So it's a permanent graphic associated with a narrative.
With that
That's
though,
very sweet.
with
Yeah.
that, the only suggestion I would make, so for example, if in the kitchen, if you have say a plumbing fixture that's an S trap instead of a P trap, you link the picture of what a proper P trap is. But then when you go to say a bathroom or the second bathroom and they have the same issue, when you go to cut and paste the text, the picture won't follow, and then you have to upload the exact same picture a second time, but you have to label it something else.
Oh, are you saying like if I click this right here, copy and paste?
Yeah, the
Right
image
there. Okay, let me try copying it into another section. It looks like the graphic's there. How were you copying and pasting it? Were you trying to highlight the text here?
Yeah.
Okay, don't do that.
Problem solved.
Did you see what I did? I used the copy or select it from this level and Control C, and then Control V, or use the paste button. Because when you're highlighting this, you're literally just getting the text. If you're highlighted at this level, you'll get the text with the image as well.
Oh, perfect. I can delete like 40 extra pictures now.
Now, what a lot of guys haven't noticed is with that feature, we actually added in on our website, you can go get this graphic library of 1,900 graphics. So once it's a separate installer on the HIP website, go log into the site and then click on downloads. And then you'll be able to come in and say, I want that plumbing issue. And here's my dishwasher loops, and here's my traps. And if I say I want extra large icon, it'll be a little easier to see. right here is explaining, this one has a P-trap right here. So there's my P-trap image. So that graphic library, I had, some of you guys know that I coach mountain biking, and so for high schoolers. And so every year I basically take one of those high schoolers and I give them a job. And so one of the ones that graduated last year is doing computer science now. So he spent the entire summer going through 1,900 images on the InterNACHI website, downloading them one by one, deleting all the text, shrinking the image to the size we use it in the report, and then adding the text back in. That was required because if you shrink an image that's really large with text, the text comes out looking like crap. It's just not something that resizes well.
Was he also from the Philippines?
Unfortunately, he got like 300 images in before I double checked his work and realized he was doing it wrong. So he had to go back and spend like 2 weeks doing that. You know, install this library. The graphic library is definitely fantastic. And when I was at the conference this week and asked some of the guys, there were several of them that had over 100 images that were linked into narratives in their template that automatically inserted. And this is a huge, huge time saver because you don't even have to think about it anymore. It's like, you know what, I have a P-trap or an air gap or an ISTAM or whatever it is. I select the comment on desktop or mobile and it's in the report. On mobile, you will not see the picture until it gets back to the desktop. And that's something we've been going back and forth on. Some of the guys have asked us to include the graphics that are in that template in the template file so they go up to mobile. And then on the mobile side, you'll be able to review it when you do the summary review with your client. And that is, I mean, totally valid and makes plenty of sense. The only problem is if you have 100 graphics in there, you've already added about 3 megs to the template size. And again, you know, when you're in the area with no inspection or no internet connection, that it makes it a lot harder to upload. So it might be something we make manual. We're still kind of discussing that right now, or an option, I mean. All right, so you guys like that feature?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'll go back to my notes of all the things I covered in the conference. We
Just a question about the linked images. If the image is linked with captions, so what happens if you edit the caption slightly? Say you were to add a location or something like that, does the image stay with it?
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Great.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You will notice under edit and company info, we did add a new thing here where you can actually see all your license details, when the expiration date is, whether draft is on or off. And for you guys, obviously buyer's choice, the draft is always on. But it'll tell you, like if you had a 6 month or 1 year, you know, depending off your franchise owner or employee or whatever, it'll tell you right there. Because before you only knew when HIP gave you a 10-day warning, right? Every time you opened it. This way, you can actually see farther in advance, and you can remove licenses easier now too from the list and load new ones. With that being said, we are actually changing the whole license system to tie into your login information instead. So licenses will be here soon, and the sooner the better for us and for you guys. The license files will go away. And just become tied to the name and password. So that'll make things easier. Problem is, obviously, most home inspectors are men. Men, you know, myself included, don't read in directions. And so even though the license email, the very first thing says, do not open this file in bold, the first thing 50% of guys do is open the file and call us and tell us it doesn't open. So, you know, obviously tying it to the username will make it so you'll never need to load a new license again. And then if you have inspectors working under you, you can shut off the license, you know, that same day rather than waiting until it expires. So just a few extra features there built into that. All right, request repair list. How many of you guys are using this right now?
Yeah.
Everybody.
Everybody, fantastic. All right, that's what I like to hear. One of the things that it's important to do that we've noticed, it's something that we pushed at ISN and a lot of guys don't realize, is there is a new variable on the ISN side that's a request to repair list URL, so website address. So right now, if you don't know about that, you're having to tell your agents to go to the real estate dashboard and then grab that request repair list. Of course, agents are lazy sometimes, so they don't do that. If you use that variable on the ISN side instead, then in the email that you use to send to the client and agent saying your report is ready, you can also say, here's the link to the repair list. This allows you all these fantastic features so you can build a report with your buyer with one click. So that is a quick shorthand from their email to the repair list instead of going through the real estate dashboard and around. So definitely check that out. Say it again.
How do you do that? You just link.
That's on the ISN side. So on the ISN side with your automated emails, you would go in and edit that email that you guys have go to your client, and you would insert the variable in there. And they have it in their list of variables. If you're not sure what it is, let me know and I can find out. I'm not sure what the exact variable name is, or you can ask ISN. You jump on their chat.
It'll be in the in our email templates when we're gonna do a rewrite. But if you want to not wait for the rewrite of our ISN emails, just do it now. In your email templates under the commands you can choose, there'll be a new one in there probably, I suspect, for repair request list URL, and we could just be putting that in the report email that goes to the buyer's agent. And I do have a new draft of an ISN email that sends them to their real estate dashboard. This might be a nice alternative instead, just send them a copy of the URL.
And they don't need the real estate dashboard.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
Just do it in-
the thing was we wanted to force them to use the real estate dashboard because they actually saw it then, saw their photo, they saw their file, they got their book inspections, like, holy shit, this sounds really great. And then when you have coffee with them and tell them about it, they're already ramped up. It's a pre-touch.
So
yeah.
the link still takes them direct to the repair list, but that repair list still lives within their dashboard. So this way they are seeing it, but they're getting the instant gratification. And it's obviously try both ways, try an A/B sample, see what you guys get. But we found that a lot more people were using the repair list when they had that in the email. We did make some changes to the repair list as well, and I'll show that to you in a second. Just in case you haven't all realized, okay, everyone knows you can upload a report in HTML, right? Okay, and the important reason that you do that is that it allows the client, an agent, to view videos from a mobile device, where with a PDF, they have to have the Adobe Reader app for that to work. And on a desktop, 95% of people have the Reader app. On a mobile device, it's like 5%. So upload both. Make sure the email to the clients that you're working on right now explains why they have both. They have the PDF so they can save it to their machine, and they're not reliant on you. But the HTML version allows a quick review. The HZF is that HIP editable file, which allows all your editable files to be backed up to the cloud. It's just another location with ISN. The mark order complete is brand new. What that does right now, that's always happened automatically. You upload a report, it automatically was marked as complete on the ISN side. And the problem with that was you would do a home inspection and then you would try to upload a separate wet report or something else and you couldn't, right? So this way, if you know you're going to be uploading multiple reports from HIP to ISN, you don't check order complete the first report. You do the first report, you upload it, and then the second report you do, you mark it complete, and then you upload it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Awesome.
The upload repair list, just in case, we did add, if you're using an older version, you might not have this, because this was added in the latest public, maybe before that. There is a select all items and all photos, and then you can deselect issues like this where you have 2 comments but 1 photo.
Is there a generate preview on that screen? That way we can see what they make?
On ISN side?
Like the screen you're in right now. So if you click the pictures and the text that you want, there should be like a preview so we can see it. Because I've had a few realtors will call me and say either pictures or text aren't lining up. But I would suspect it's just user error on their side.
That probably is. We don't, because that's not actually a HIP feature at that point. So we send that data to ISN, and ISN is the one generating that that report for them. Have you guys all seen what that looks like from the ISN side? What the agencies?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. Yeah, there is no preview. Like I said, it is ISNs. You can get into any agent's red and take a look at it, though. You just go to the agent info and then pull it up.
Okay.
We did add a select all within each section as well, just to try to make it easier for you guys to deselect stuff. Obviously, there's a very different set of items you might send to a first-time buyer versus an investor. An investor is not going to care about half of the stuff, where a first-time home buyer is going to be concerned about everything. So you have all those options in there. Any questions on that before I go on? No? Good. A few other things. And I know you guys just wanted to do an hour. Do you want me to keep going, or did you have something else planned?
We have something else, but we could probably give you another like 10 minutes or so if you want to stick to the stuff with the sizzle.
Yep. Let me try to go quickly. So if you guys haven't all noticed, there's a search field in the bottom right now. So you type, it highlights everything with that word in it. Application settings has everything that's program wide instead of template wide. And then let me jump over. What was the other thing?
Hey, Dominic, sorry. Maybe while you were in there, a common theme problem that we see across our team is inconsistent heading text font size throughout the report and add on the fly. Can you show the group real quick? How do we set that once so everything is consistent at all times for headings?
So the best thing to do is on report settings and formatting, set what you want the header background color and header font to be. And then this is like the program default. And from then on, under section colors and print order, you can set your header fonts. But then you can also say inherit from formatting, and that will reset. Like you noticed I had a white background in the previous formatting. So when I click that, it reset everything to be the exact same. But if you do have like a wrong font or something, this is where you would click on it and change the font and font size. Change the section font and font size as well.
And when you do system wide, then that sets for, when you load on the fly on mobile or anything, it's the whole 9 yards. We never have to mess with that again.
You shouldn't have to. I know that's on the to-do as far as the copied items. I'm pretty sure this update had copies do maintain the same formatting, because that's where most of your guys are starting to get deviations, is they copy something and then the copy didn't have it. Let me double check that, because I know it was on the top of our list, but unlike in the old days where I was doing 100% of the programming, I have 8 programmers now. So I need to make sure that that actually was in there, because I can't remember testing that. Copy section, fonts.
And while we're on the topic of copying, if you go into photos, and just click any one of those photos. If I need to make a duplicate of that photo for any reason, is there any way to do that right now?
So the easiest way to do it is go to a blank and click add photo.
Yeah.
And then in your Home Inspector Pro folder, so wherever you have it saved, right now I have it here, go to data and temp. And the most recent folder is the inspection I have open right now.
Is that a setting you would already automatically have on?
Say that again.
Is that a setting everybody would automatically already have on?
Yes. So basically, while you're working in HIP, it creates this temporary folder automatically, and all your pictures are in there. So I can go in here and select a picture, and then it's going to make another copy of that photo and then save it there.
Okay, that's good to know. If we can make a shortcut to that, that would help.
Yeah, sure. On mobile, you guys know you can long press on a picture and make a copy too.
Well, we do now.
I didn't know that.
No, yeah, none of us knew that.
Yeah, I figured that out one day.
Come on, boys.
I felt really smart.
So there was someone in there smart enough to figure that out. I heard that. All right.
It was an accident.
Good to know. Okay.
Yeah. So one other thing. So we added about, and this is huge. So 6 to 8 months ago, we came out with the HIP camera, right? And that's turned on right here. Now, over time, you know, first update, there's, oops, can't put that down. There's 2,600 different Android devices, and there's a dozen different Apple devices. So there's been a hell of a lot of, we created this awesome feature, but it works perfectly on this phone and not on this phone. So we have about 40 or 50 updates now into the HIP camera. And you'll notice right now I'm on 5.4.31, which I think a few of you in there on the beta team that have this. There's a lot of changes we've been making. One is the default resolution you select from this screen now. Now, on an Android device, we only have 4:3 and 16:9. Highly recommend you only using 4:3. On an iPhone and iPad, and shortly on Android, we've added a new option that says 1:1. Have any of you guys seen that yet? Okay, so a 1:1 is a square. And the awesome thing about that is it doesn't matter how you hold your phone, your pictures are always going to come out in the same orientation. So I know one of my pet peeves is I look at reports and half the photos guys are taking are in portrait and half are in landscape, and it's just not as aesthetically pleasing.
G'day, Rick.
Especially the cover photo.
Yeah.
Especially the cover photo. Especially when you have a cover page, you know, design set up, it just won't work.
It took you so long to figure this out. Come on, Dominic.
So the 1:1 is really sweet, and you guys will have that on Android here shortly. Now, and the other thing is the save full size images. I think most of you guys know about on the device. It saves a full size copy of the photo, and then you can use something like Google Photos to actually back those up to the cloud quickly. But now, what I'm going to do, I want to show you how much the newer versions here of the camera app, the HIP camera, the quality is extremely good. And
will that also prevent the app from freezing if you use the built-in camera instead of the device camera?
if the app is freezing for some reason with the built-in camera, it's very, I mean, there's a few reasons that's possible. One is low space. The other is you have a third-party camera app. We've seen that a few times because HIP doesn't call the system camera. It calls whatever you've made the default. The third reason we see is guys are still running Android 5 and 6 devices. And that's something that we're on Android 9 now. So Google comes out with a new Android release every year. So Android 6 is 4 years old. And what happens is the only way that we can support the latest phones that come out right now, like the Pixel 3 and iPhone X and all that stuff, is we have to update. It's called the SDK. It's basically the platform that the OSs give us. The problem with that is when we upgrade the SDK to support the new phones, it gives us problems with the oldest phones. So what that means is you got to make sure you're updating every couple of years. I mean, if you have a 2-year-old phone, you're definitely fine. If you have a 3-year-old phone, you should be fine. But when you start getting to the 4-year-old phones, the 5-year-old phones, like I have a guy right now, he's got 8 Note 4s for all his employees. So the problem is the Note 4, we're now on a Note 9. It's a 5-year-old device. So, you know, while they work really well in an older version of HIP, it's extremely difficult for us to support that old and brand new at the same time. And it becomes a matter of, do I want a programmer to spend 100 hours trying to get something to work on a Note 4 or 100 hours trying to add some new badass feature into HIP? And
I think my issue is using a 4.5, 5-year-old iPad.
So the Apple devices work slightly better. The problem with the Apple devices is Apple's been killing the battery life on old devices to make sure you buy a new device. So that finally became public. We went through 6 months of guys bitching at us when iOS 10 came out because they thought HIP was sucking up the battery. And then a big expose came out saying Apple was doing that on purpose to everyone that updated. So yeah, basically moral of the story is update. So you can see here that I'm missing event cover, but I can rapid fire. There's 1 picture. There's 2 pictures. Here's 3 pictures. Here's 4 pictures. So if you have the system camera, each time you take a photo, it's dumping you out of HIP, and then you have to reopen the camera app. And so that adds 5 to 10 seconds to each thing you do. Where I just added into here, let this reconnect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I added 8 photographs in the matter of about 10 seconds. I just added all those photos. And so it's much, much, much faster, and it's much safer. So if you're on the roof, go to the first tab of the roof page.
So what's a roof? What is
Yeah,
that?
what's a roof?
What are you doing on your nose?
That's what my dog said.
Something you won't see for about 5 months, right?
Oh, there you go.
So let's say you're in a crawl space or you know, a frozen pond under the house. You can take all these photos in one section and then go down to the ground or come out of the crawl space, and you double tap any photo. And when you double tap a photo, you can select what section and what item you want it to go to. So that's actually a skylight photo. I'm going to double tap this last one. This actually is a chimney photo. So I can move these photos wherever I want in the report. Did you guys know you had that ability?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I long press on a photo, it comes up and says, hey, do you want to copy this? Yes, I do. And I can make a copy of it, and I can shoot it anywhere else I want. What we're working on right now is the ability to swipe a photo row and give a whole bunch more options, like copy and move, add a summary, you know, edit, and everything else. So that's been something we've had in the process here for a bit. It's just not working as smoothly and quickly as I want it to, so we're still tweaking it before we release it. The HIP client app, is anyone in there beta testing that right now? No? Okay. So the client app has been given to our beta testers, and this is groundbreaking as far as marketing goes and making your inspections farther. One of the most annoying things, or time-consuming, I won't say annoying, one of the most time-consuming thing on site is the clients following you everywhere, right? They never stop talking. They're in every room behind you, asking you questions. They liability-wise, they jump on the ladder and follow you up onto that thing you see every once in a while called a roof. You know, all that kind of stuff. So we developed a client app, and what that is you take a tablet, an iPad or an Android tablet, and then on the main inspection page, when you're creating a job, there's actually a new option. It's not on this version because it's just on the beta version. It says create team inspection. And the team inspection has 2 purposes, and one of them is this client app. And so when you create that team inspection, it gives you a 5-digit code. And there's a separate app on the App Store called Home Inspector Pro Client Presentation. And you put that code into the iPad, for example. And then when you get to the inspection, you set the client down and the agent on the dining table, and you say, hey, I'm setting up this iPad for you guys. I'm putting some popcorn in the microwave right now to test the microwave. I want you guys to sit here and relax. And as I'm doing my inspection, you'll be able to see all the photos I take along with the captions in a slideshow. And the slideshow will continuously update throughout the inspection. And every once in a while, I'll come stop by and check on you guys to see if you have any questions. And what we found, say that again? So
is that app right now?
So you can have it if you're a beta tester. I'm not sure if anyone there is testing it. It will be public for everyone shortly. What we found from the inspectors that are testing it right now is, one, it works extremely well. The agent wants to sit there and have the client sign disclosure paperwork and everything else, and they sit there and they don't follow the guys around. 2, we've already had multiple instances where the client, you stop by and check on the client, and they ask a question on something in a photo that you didn't see. Now, of course, at that point, you go, of course I saw that. Let me explain that. And then you turn around and update that inside the mobile device, right? So it prevents problems down the line because the client sees it then. And then the third thing is that the end of the inspection summary review goes much, much faster because the client has already seen everything with captions. So it's making a massive difference. Some of the guys are saying it's saving them 20 minutes per inspection at this point, between the time saved from the client following them and the end of the inspection review. So,
Hey, Dominic, would this be practical for you know, like in New Brunswick, clients don't actually go to the inspection. They show up.
You know
at the
what?
end.
So we did have one guy. We did have one guy try it on a military relocation already, and yes, they could sit there and watch it in real time. Obviously, you're not going to keep them on the phone the whole time, but for a review at the end of the inspection especially, they can swipe through the slideshow quickly. So you can tell them, you know, you, for example, come in the bottom left here, you click on the summary button, which all of you guys knew about, right? Everyone knew about the summary button? Uh-oh.
Nope,
Right.
they didn't.
So bottom left corner of the inspection page is this icon right here. This is your summary review with your client. You click on this, and then you tap any photo, and now you do a slideshow with the client with all the captions. See how crazy the Americans look at conferences? Yeah.
Is this new?
Is this different on an iPhone?
Nope, it's been there for at least 2 years.
Okay, so what button is it?
It's the button on the bottom left corner. It will show you all your summary comments as well.
Hey, Dominic, I'm going to give you the old 2-minute hook. All right.
Got it. Top right corner now is a new feature, and that is where it says show all. So if you click that, it shows every comment in the report that you've selected. If I go back to show summary, it shows me only my comments and only the photos. All right. Another thing that I see a lot of guys miss is under client info. You can import your ISN information here direct on mobile. A lot of guys miss that. Another thing a lot of guys miss is that when you're, let me go back here. When you're in a photo section, let's say I'm on attic ducts, this icon right here, the little folder, and then this icon right here allows me to bulk add photos from anywhere else in the report. And then this icon right here, the little mountains, allows me to select from any program. If you're using a thermal camera, most of the IR cameras have Wi-Fi built in now. If I click this, it'll allow me to insert images direct from my thermal camera directly into Hip Mobile. So something that saves time. Say that again?
That saves a lot of time.
Yeah.
You definitely can. All right, so you have 1 minute to ask questions before Rick kicks me off. Any questions based on all that?
Just a ballpark of when this will be available.
I'm hoping within the next week we're going to have this out. The desktop version, we were holding off releasing it even though everything was done because it was sucking up too much memory. We added like all the graphic features, we're adding a lot more RAM, and it wasn't working as smoothly on older devices. I think we have that solved now. We're going to be running some more tests this weekend on some older computers, and then hopefully releasing it towards the end of next week. So definitely keep out for that. On mobile, most of the stuff I showed you was already in mobile. In fact, everything except the latest hip camera was already on mobile. So you can definitely get that now. The new mobile update, version 31, should go public tonight or tomorrow. So you probably have version 14 right now, unless you're on the beta testing team.
Awesome, Dominic. You rock, buddy. We'll be in touch soon.
I have a question.
Oh, Zdenko's
Yes.
got a question.
Go ahead, Zdenko.
Are you going to Croatia next year?
Yes, in end of June, probably maybe beginning of July. I'll be over in FAR again.
Guess what month next year is going to be?
I guess I'm going to see you there then.
Are you gonna go? When are you gonna go?
Wherever you go.
Sounds good. I'm related to everyone on the island, so come on over.
Yeah.
Dominic,
Awesome.
I have one question. I can step out for a few minutes for a phone call, so I don't know, you might have already covered it, but is it an option in the new update on mobile, or is it a plan to bring it in, that you can add a picture summary directly on mobile instead of having to do it on your laptop or PC?
So I did mention that when you stepped out for a second. We're adding in a swipe feature on the photo row. So when you swipe the row to the side, it'll then give you, let me add a couple in here. It'll give you more options. So like if I swiped this from left to right, it would pop up an option for summary and other things. the swipe isn't working as smoothly as I want right now. It's stuttering and it's like it swipes like 5 out of 10 times. So we're still trying to get that and figure out why we can't get that working smoother before we release it to everybody. But yes, definitely coming.
Okay,
right.
thanks, buddy. We'll talk
No
soon.
problem. You guys have a good day, and I will talk to you guys later.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Dominic.